Today you have opportunity to use some 3D print foot models which are being developed by Stefan Kala, Manisha Dal and Tolson Pharmakinwa to assist your anatomical knowledge and palpation skills. I'm Steph Pankala and I will guide you through the process of using these models. So these are 3D printed models, and as you can see they have fairly good detail of the anatomy of the foot. They've had all the soft tissue taken away, but they still have the soft tissue volume, so you can get a sense of the 3D nature and the volume of the foot. We're going to use these today to assist your palpation skills. So what we have is we have solid model but transparent, and then we actually have models the same foot, the same bone structure underneath, but with a softer silicone area to represent the soft tissues. So the idea of how to use these is to look at the initial model, which is the obviously more skeletally seen model, but also get an idea of the volume of the soft tissue and how that might feel. And the idea is that soft tissue clearly is a lot softer than bone, so you should be able to distinguish between the two. So the first thing we're going to get you to do is the classic podiatrist maneuver of actually palpating the talar head. And clearly I can't palpate it on the hard model, but what I can do is come to the soft model and palpate the talar head. So this is the talar head here. What you'll notice on the clear model, on the hard model, is there's quite a lot of soft tissue in this area. So when you palpate the talar head, you'll find where the soft tissue is, there is less resistance to this area, and on the other side where it's straight onto bone, it's a lot firmer. So the idea is to get a sense of what the soft tissue might feel like and move forward until there's more resistance. So you can see here there's quite a lot of, I can quite easily push in this area, and as I move up the foot there's more resistance, so I'm on to the next bone. So if you then think about your anatomy, and you can also look at this model, and you see that the next bone along is the navicular. And so here on the side we're palpating the navicular tuberosity. So again, into the soft tissue, move forward, you can feel the resistance, find the navicular, and then you'll find that you actually go into another hollow. So it's like a little V that you go into this area. There's a V sort of spot. That is the joint line now between the navicular and the cuneiform. So again, if we go back to the hard model, you can actually see the navicular tuberosity, you can see the V that you'll fall into, and then you're onto the cuneiform. You can then feel down again till you get to the next V, which will then be between the cuneiform and the first metatarsal. What you'll also notice is the shape of that first metatarsal in this model, and so again a lot more soft tissue in the shaft of the metatarsal as opposed to up at its base. So again you can feel this shape down, and then you'll again start to feel the shape or the resistance as the head of the metatarsal and the sesamoids come into play. So on the model, as you know that you've got your navicular, you can feel your V into the next joint. Again, feeling down, feel around for the V. What you'll also notice is that if you go underneath, that there's some resistance, and then you start getting into less resistance as you go down this model to the point that you can feel where the sesamoids are coming into place. So again, you can palpate the sesamoids. You can then from that point now start to distinguish more easily the metatarsal phalangeal joint, and both of the joints actually allow some movement at this point, and that certainly makes it a lot easier to find your joint line as well. So again, if we go back to the hard model and the transparent model, you can see the shaft of the metatarsal, you can see the sesamoids underneath, you can then see the joint line. So again, you're palpating into this joint line, but you now have opportunity with these models to find that joint line. So again, noticing where the more resistance is, where the bone is going to be, sensing for that V where the joint line is. You can palpate the whole joint line all the way through, obviously all the way under as well. Won't show you at this stage. But then what you can do is actually start to move this joint as well. So the positions that you would have moved already, so I'm just trying to position this a little bit for the camera, but you want to stabilize the first metatarsal, and you want to then dorsiflex the phalange up on this joint line. Remember too that you need to think about what the shape of the metatarsal head and that the positioning of how you're testing for the first MPJ range of motion is dependent on that first ray position, which will actually show on someone's foot a bit later, because we do not have the movement in our metatarsal in this joint model. So you can test your joint range of motion here. What you could also do is test for the joint stability in terms of translation up and down, as well as side to side. If you're doing this on a student, you need to be very careful about how you're progressing with this movement. So you have opportunity now to actually compare the models. You'll also notice there's a third model. I'm not too sure it will show up so well with the video, but what you can actually see, there's a greenier tinge under here. So again, this has just been done. If you look at these models, you can actually see the green color of the bone to give you more definition between where the soft tissue is and where the bone is. But remember, the idea of palpation is to know your anatomy, know the resistance of the tissue, feel for joint lines, feel for the V. If you can move the joint. So some parts of these models will move and other parts won't. So we can certainly perfect these as we go along. But certainly when you transfer these skills to a person, an ideal way to find joint lines is, again, know your anatomy, palpate the joint surfaces, bend, and then you'll find the joint line. What's important about this is that you are feeling really well and not prodding. So have a go at the models and see how you go.